Well, it's been quite a week. We had All Souls Day, Holy Day of Obligation, or All Saints Day, Holy Day of Obligation, following on that All Souls Day. And later in the week, we had St. Hubert's Memorial Day. We had St. Charles Borromeo. It's been an incredible week. And we've come upon these readings, and they're similar to the readings that we had a few weeks ago about corruption within the religious and the secular world. And so in the first reading, 400 years before Christ, the Lord God is speaking directly to the Levitical priests, telling them they are not doing what they should be doing, and that correction is going to be issued. Scary. And it says you do these things, you have a duplicitous heart. You say one thing to one set of people, maybe having nothing to do with the will of God, and then maybe saying other things to other people that has something to do with the will of God. He says, no, you need to be unified. And then we move forward to the gospel reading. The Pharisees have just been silenced, or the Sadducees had just been silenced, and the Pharisees come forward and the scribes, and the Lord tells them, well, they occupy the seat of Moses, and so you do what they tell you because they are the keepers of the law. Pharisees, that word means righteous ones. They came about after the Babylonian exile because they felt that the people were not keeping the law, and that's the reason why they were swept into exile. So they wanted to keep every single letter of the law and even make up laws that were not part of Judaism. And he says, do it whatever they tell you, but don't follow the example, because they practice but they do not preach. It's assuming, that there's some corruption there. And we live in a time that's very confusing. And we hear the response to the psalm, you, O Lord, are my peace. You, O Lord, are my hope. And we need that during these challenging times. And in that psalm, it speaks of a child, a weaned child on the lap of its mother, being comforted. You, O Lord, are my hope. And I remember, when I feel kind of stressed out, sometimes I'll rub my solar plexus. My mom's been gone since 2016, but I have to believe that act of calming oneself is from her, like that child sitting on the lap of a mom and being comforted. And we need that comfort in times like this. Where does it come from? I was listening to Scott Hahn and Matt Fradd this week. They had a rather long video called Catholics in Exile. And in this video, I think it's over 2.5 hours long, they talk about the church in her present time. We talk about Jesus and his ministry on earth. And what do we do about times like this that are challenging? Now, I have mentioned a few weeks ago some sources I would like you to consider when we hear things from Catholic politicians, so-called Catholic politicians that say that they're practicing Catholics, and then they say something and you're like, I don't know about that. And then some confusion that can come down the line from both lay and Catholic leaders, and you're like, I think the church teaches that. We have both the Bible and the Catechism. This Bible was overseen in its production. It's a New Testament version by Dr. Scott Hahn himself, and it's very solid. It has lots of references to the catechism and to church fathers and ancient church teachings. It's a very good Bible to have in your collection. And then the Catechism of the Catholic Church. This is, essentially a summary of what we teach. And one of our parishioners yesterday, Joyce Cornell, who gave a talk to the women earlier in the day, said, remind the people that Father Mike Schmitz has a YouTube channel where he goes through this 15 minutes a day, and you can get through this in a year, and you will know a lot about what the church teaches and where to find that in here. So we look for that comfort of that child. Oh Lord, my God, you are my peace. Dr. Scott Hahn, when asked, what do you do in these times? It's got to be unsettling for you. He said in his prayer that the Lord said to him, do you think you have more concern and more at stake, essentially, regarding my church and what's going on in the present day than I do? And he's like, oh, Lord, I'm sorry. And he said, be grateful. This is the antidote to being afraid or anxious or what have you. He said, be grateful. Think about the little things and be grateful. And then he said, write out a long list. And he said he's done this. Write out a long list of the things that really bug you. This to me is counterintuitive. It's like, this is not something that I would figure out on my own to do. Write out a long list of the things that bug you. He said he did it. People that bug you, the people that don't respect you, the people that are never on your side, never on board with you. He said, write out that list. Write out that list. All the things that bug you. And then sit there with the Lord and be grateful. Be thankful. Because he says this world we are in an exile. This world is, we have our little home here, but ultimately we don't stay here. We have a home here, but we are not going to stay here. So we write about these things, and it's to help us realize that the world is a saint-making machine. And it's like all these things that are put in your life that drive you crazy are part of what is that saint-making machine's function. And he says, give thanks to the Lord for these things, even the things that you can't stand. And I'm like, this is not going to be easy. Not going to be easy. He talks about some other things. He said, be, in some moments, in short moments, to surrender. You have these things going on and you just say, Jesus, this is what's going on. You take care of everything. And he had suggestions for the rosary and for the chaplet of divine mercy. But that list was really, really important to him. Friends, if Dr. Hahn is true, if he's right, this world is a saint-making machine. So maybe all of us would do well to start that list and be grateful to God and then say, Lord, you, O Lord, are my hope. You, O Lord, are my salvation.